Welcome to Brain Soup, the podcast that stirs up the latest innovation, trends, and breakthroughs in the world of technology. We're your hosts, Cal Miller,
Fernando Miguel,
Ryan Shazali,
and we're here to serve you a bowl of curiosity, one episode at a time. Let's dive into the flavorful world of technology in your weekly dose of Brain Soup.
Brain Soup, baby. Let's go.
Hey, man.
All right. How's it going?
This is a dope-ass intro.
Yeah, it is. I love the tone. So
The best part about this week, they can just cut whatever really sucks.
Well, they have to cut the whole thing. I'm joking. So we got a question today to start with, huh?
Yeah. So
one
today,
of our favorite
all right,
handmade questions.
This is our favorite thing to do. The questions we get. So
Cal came loaded with the question.
Yep.
And like usual, Hannah provides a list of questions that trump his.
Oh, right. Yeah.
So I went with the number 7 on this one. And here it is. We'll let Fernando go first.
Okay.
All right?
Jeez.
So what historical figure or event do you think would have been influenced the most by AI if it had been available in their time? And how might their stories have changed? And in a sense, just imagine that they have the same knowledge that they have of their time, right? Information, but they just happen to have the ability to talk to an AI.
Yeah.
Or utilize it.
That's a very tough question because I can think of so many historical figures. But for today, I think I'm going to go with 2. Maybe 3, actually. Oh, cool. We got a visitor.
We got a fan.
Right.
He's actually a really big fan
We're
of the
popular,
podcast.
you know. Welcome
Yeah.
to yeah, so I think I would have to go. Maybe I can sneak in 3, hopefully. But I would say Isaac Newton and Einstein. So, you know, because Isaac Newton, he pretty much completely gave us the modern view of physics, like classical physics, with his laws of motion, his understanding of gravity. He created calculus. And with all of that knowledge that he had, that understanding of mathematics, I think one of the main things that limited him was just computational power, you know, because he had the brilliance and the creativity and, you know, the mathematical and physical, or, the know-how to understand the universe. And with so little that he had at his disposal, he, you know, formulated so much and created this modern understanding of the universe. Then, you know, he remained uncontested for so long, and then Einstein came and basically took what Newton said and expanded it into a complete new understanding. I mean, Newton still applied, but Einstein gave this completely new way of understanding it that was closer to reality with, like, relativity. Mainly his theories of relativity. And again, like, he was just completely brilliant with his ability to project. And, like, with his thought experiments, with such little at his disposal, he was able to, create all of these theories and understanding of the universe. Brownian motion as well. What's it called? He won the Nobel Prize on, ironically, not in relativity, but, it'll come back to me. But, yeah, anyway, so those 2... were the 2 of the key figures that completely shaped our understanding of the universe. And I just, like, with AI, the ability to take their knowledge, their mathematics, their... our current models of AI aren't the greatest in terms of, like, you know, mathematics, computing, but I think if we had a more advanced AI with more advanced, like, mathematical capabilities, and I think they could have achieved so much more.
I think so. I agree with you on that. Like that.
And Stephen Hawking.
I think they could have benefited a lot from it, right? But, like, I would say that, like, maybe it didn't need to do the computations like you're talking about, right? Like, what if them just being able to, like, talk to their contemporaries or be able to utilize the information of their contemporaries that weren't in an area for them to talk to or get information. So, like you're saying, Isaac Newton, like, obviously he probably read much more Western knowledge. So you
Yeah.
probably missed out on like a lot of like Middle Eastern knowledge that might have been around at the same time, that was coming out at the same time. He might have had earlier knowledge, right? He might have maybe earlier Eastern knowledge, right? Based on that. But
and a lot of that knowledge was either lost or hadn't been translated, or
if he'd
hadn't
have had that, just the stuff going on at the same time,
absolutely.
Really, like, what would that allow him to do? He might not have needed to do the mathematics for.
I'm actually not thinking about the computational mathematics. He was already brilliant at that. I think
just to read,
like you said,
read their theories.
Yeah,
would I think that like what could have done with his mind, right? Like he didn't need the AI to parse the information. He just needed the AI in a sense, like for how he could find out who had already talked about something or who had already thought of something similar to something he was researching about.
Yeah, in fact, I mean, he innovated in optics, and there was already a lot of knowledge like coming from the Middle East and other places about optics that, he probably, could have applied. Yeah, I mean, because a lot of these, like Einstein and Newton and other contemporaries, they were really like polyglots that worked across so many fields and disciplines, and that was part of their brilliance. And then I'd add Stephen Hawking because, with his degenerative disease, just barely using a finger and controlling a computer, like just...
Imagine them having the knowledge of, like, the isolated countries of the time.
Who?
Like, the people you were talking about, like Hawkins, any of those people, like, the isolated countries that really didn't, like, spread out any knowledge, that really kept all their knowledge internal, like, kind of like, like, if he'd had that ability, like, stuff was still being researched in other areas while Stephen Hawkins was there, and like just like they are today.
Although I will say,
there are some areas like
AI
what I'm
probably
saying
already
is, like,
existed during Stephen Hawking's time, not at the capacity maybe of like ChatGPT and those things, but maybe like there was already probably some sort of advanced.
I don't think he benefited from the revolution.
Yeah, probably not as much as he would.
We're
now.
starting to.
Yeah.
All right, Ryan.
But definitely, like Newton and Einstein, definitely. Like I think,
I can't even like the reason why I haven't spoke much is because it's like hard on like the actual scientist side to comprehend what they would have come up with.
Yeah, because all they had was their stuff or their people
Exactly.
around them, or like their water cooler talk at Oxford or whatever.
I know, right?
Well,
It was such a closed loop.
I just
sorry.
told
I
you,
went
like,
back
I
to
have no idea where he went to school.
Who?
Where did Newton go to school? Was it Oxford or Cambridge?
I'm hazy on his
There we
details.
go. Stupid.
But we
Right
can
here.
look it up. Well, that's the beauty of the internet. We don't have to.
It's the beauty of
Remember-
Hannah.
Yeah.
She's about to tell us.
She's about to let us know.
And I was actually gonna come back to. It was the photoelectric effect that Einstein won the Nobel Prize in.
Okay.
So it wasn't even like it was actually that in
Trinity College.
Trinity College.
Here I am, just picking the two British
chose
like.
the
I'm the
only
only
one
one
I
I
could
can
think
think
of.
But I believe the time when Newton, I think the time when Newton created calculus was when he was there was I think there was a pandemic going on or something going on where he had to be in rest or isolated or something, and then that's like what was some of his most productive years. I'd have to fact check exactly what it was, and if that because I'm just remembering something up.
We could test this.
What?
We could break your legs. We could make sure you can't like walk or like move for about 6 months, and then we can see how much creativity you have in those 6 months compared to the 6 months prior.
Well, I will say COVID. It was terrible.
Yeah,
but at the same time, creatively, it was quite a productive time.
Tell me, did you write a lot of your book during?
Oh, well.
Without,
I'm just curious. Like just a high level. Like just
Actually,
curious.
no. This was in 2017. I did it
Okay.
in the span of 6 months, but then spent like multiple years like reiterating,
Gotcha.
adjusting. That wasn't during COVID.
did you ever
but
pivot?
I pivoted in what way?
Did you ever pivot or did you only iterate?
I pivoted like I was walking into the kitchen and I pivoted to go and
Okay.
to the living room instead.
Because that's where the juices flow.
Yeah. Yeah, of course, exactly.
All right, Ryan, do you want to go next?
Oh, sure.
So, what historical figure or event do you think would have been influenced the most by AI if it had been available in their time, and how might their stories have changed?
So I got a chance to think about this while Fernando was speaking, but
So he wasn't listening to me.
No, I was. But I mean, it took me.
Here's your sign.
It only took me a few seconds to think about it.
Oh.
Because I use AI for the same thing, right? Content creation. So I'm thinking from a content creation standpoint, Shakespeare.
Oh.
Yeah, imagine
The
how
guy that
much-
already stole everything?
Well, imagine if he could have worked twice as fast, 5 times as fast, 10 times as fast, and put out 10 times as many, things, or whatever. Even to the point where he could have choreographed or done other things using ChatGPT's knowledge on things that have worked in the past from other civilizations, other things like Greece, whatever.
Real Housewives.
Which I'll be going to in July, by
Greece?
the way.
Oh,
Yeah,
nice.
Greece. I got a wedding I'm going to. A great friend of mine, Michaela.
Athens
but,
or
I'm not sure yet, but I'll be going there for the wedding. So
Nice.
I'm pretty excited about it. Regardless, I think Shakespeare or any of these playwrights back in the day.
What's one other one?
You would do that.
Sophocles,
I
who
mean,
wrote Antigone and
Bro,
I'm
that's
trying to-
your world. Time out.
Oh,
I can think of Shakespeare and thank you.
thank you. It's a great one.
I appreciate that.
In the greats.
So the greats. I mean, there were other greats, right? But like, we don't
Yeah,
all know
there were.
all the greats. I mean,
Yeah.
they were there. They were there. Shakespeare, however, sticks out to a lot of people because we learn about him in high school. We read his books. Like,
and he was
this is something
prolific.
that he was prolific. So I mean, I'm saying, like, for example, and people like him, which I'm not going to mention their names. They're amazing. Shakespeare, however, can you imagine the amount of change he could have made in society? Or even like, okay, so Dickens. Even Dickens. I don't think Dickens was the kind of guy who would use AI, though.
But it's not AI to write, right?
Yeah,
like, what if
but
he used
not-
AI to figure
No,
out
not
things
to
in different
necessarily
areas,
write,
right?
to,
So he
like,
would-
it's great at
because he had
brainstorming.
ideas,
I
he
use
was-
AI
yeah.
to brainstorm.
Yeah, true.
But Charles Dickens might not have known
Or
what
research.
different areas of the world look like. He might not have known all the animals that existed in areas that were known at that time.
No,
Exactly.
for writers,
Like, so-
AI is wonderful for like brainstorming, even for creating a setting. It's text to image. You
Yeah.
can literally visualize.
Oh, I didn't even
you know,
think of text to
certain-
image being something they could use.
Yeah,
to
like
of
I've
course.
used for some
Of
of my
course.
short stories that I write. Like I've used text to image to visualize. Okay, I need
The
a,
picture
you know,
you're painting.
a
Yeah.
robot in the forest that's this and that, etc. 'Cause
Well,
that-
even with the content you've wrote, you could probably plug that in there and see the picture that's being painted from what you've written.
yeah,
like,
you can do that.
I mean,
you can
that's-
also ask, like, there's actually on ChatGPT, it's like a little extra thing you can click, and it's like a creative writing coach, so it can also give you feedback. So I mean, there's different ways you can just brainstorm. You don't have to have it to actually write for you. In fact, for me, like, that's part of the thing that I want to do is like the creative aspect. But you can use it for research, brainstorming, visualizing, all kinds of things that
It's
doesn't
like the
just feel
new
like-
Google.
I feel like Charles Dickens, just as one man, like, he's just the last person I can visualize even using it for that. Like, I think he got into his element through that piece, and like I've done a little research on him. I just think that Shakespeare would have used it. Charles Dickens.
Dude,
Well,
now,
there's,
Charles
there's a
Dickens
lot
would
more
have wrote-
history
he would have
behind
wrote-
Shakespeare in terms
Yeah.
of like who he was and what did he actually write. There
Yeah.
is a little bit more like contention.
I
to
see that.
who
I
he-
didn't realize that
Sorry,
there was
go ahead.
controversy.
Let's not go down the
around
rabbit
it.
hole.
Was there?
Yeah,
Is there
well,
controversy
all right.
around this?
That's
Like,
There was a
Oh
little
my
bit. there-
God.
Well,
I didn't know that.
Even
Get the full
like,
hats on.
No,
Here we go. Let's.
well, he's like Pythagoras. Like Pythagoras is one of those historical figures as another example that they cannot entirely be sure like all of his contributions because a lot of his followers would attribute what he wrote to him. Now he's not exactly the same as Shakespeare, but what I'm saying is like historically he's a little bit harder to pinpoint than Dickens.
Plato's Socrates issue. Socrates never wrote anything. Plato wrote everything for Socrates. So it's never understood if
Is that-
anything
is that
written.
the case?
Yeah, read it. Look it up. He actually never wrote.
Oh.
Look it up. I could be wrong. Hannah's gonna prove me
I
wrong.
looked at her immediately.
Yeah,
As a famous, hey, no, like,
he
like,
called
before
us
she-
on the
before
on
she
the
says
rabbit hole.
anything, as a,
Let's call
before
him
she
on
says
that.
anything, as a famous philosopher once said,
Oh, no.
blame it on the alcohol.
Oh gosh.
Oh yeah, that was the great. Isn't it the great T-Pain? Or
That's a great team.
So yeah, but I would think like, okay, so real quick, do you think if Shakespeare would have had AI, he would have come up with like the Real Housewives of London
I think
before we would have like ever had like reality TV? You think he'd have just like started? Like, could you imagine reality like Broadway?
Oh.
Like if Shakespeare would have started reality Broadway, like
Okay, if
reality,
he
Well,
had
I
the
don't know- I don't
information
know,
from
because-
today, he would have built Hollywood faster, man. I'm
I
telling
don't
you.
know though because I don't know because like you have to think about like there's so many other things that shape like whole paradigms of and ways of thinking.
but maybe he'd have been able to figure out that different genre he hadn't thought about. Like he had his, like he was great at what he did, right? And he had multiple different things he wrote,
Yeah.
right? But
Like his
like,
comedies, tragedies, and
what
sonnets
if
and-
what if like he would have invented reality playwriting?
I mean, very well.
Well, but what is reality playwriting? Because it's kind of like he already did. Like a lot of like the dramas that he had were like, oh, you slept with my, and like, oh, you killed it, oh, Mercutio, and like
Maybe
it was
maybe
kill
they would
myself
like
over
maybe he
this,
would have
like-
figured out a way to like set up a dinner on stage where people like
Midsummer's
ate
Night
dinner.
Dream is a complete reality show
Like
type.
people like he would set people up on dinner dates, right? Like put them out on and they would be sitting on the stage, and then they'd be having dinner, and people would be like watching the interactions, and maybe it's all like first time dates or something, or someone's.
So you just have a crowd standing around.
It's an old time. They each getting chattled or whatever, like figuring out who's gonna buy who for what. Like, oh, you're gonna buy my daughter for whatever. Yeah, sounds great. Like however you want to do that, you could have that whole interaction being going on, right? Like he might have been able to figure out like, what if we just put people there and they ate dinner and people just watch people eating dinner and just watch what happened.
So what you're saying is his contribution to society would be that we would have had Jersey Shore like much earlier than than what we have it now.
No, man, this is the Big Ben. It's the Big Ben shore by the eye, right by the eye.
You could look at it that way. I mean, Real House,
To condense it.
I don't know, the real world, Westminster Abbey.
Well, but I mean, like Shakespeare, he was fundamental. Like he created so many new words in the English language alone. He created new genres of writing. So I think he would be in this. He's known as
even the marketing,
the greatest literary figure up with like Dante and Miguel Cervantes. Huh?
Even the marketing though for him and his plays, like getting out faster, right? Like making things go quicker, building more plays. Pushing things way quicker, information faster. I think back then the key to people being successful or not was the access to information faster.
So same thing today.
I mean, of course, today. But we're looking at
but there's a lot. More,
but we're looking at now credibility
there are a lot more,
of the information you're receiving, right?
Well, although now
because you're getting information fast.
I mean, a lot of people got a lot of information from their.
But it was like, what are you?
Inquisition.
Yeah, I guess it's relevancy and also speed to information and also legitimacy now. I mean, like at the end of the day, like you can't. Do you know any? I mean, at the end of the day, you don't have any place to cross-reference what you got, right?
True,
like,
but at the same time, I mean, you do and you don't. I think.
But it's also like, do you trust the place you're getting the cross?
It was a lot easier. I would say life was a lot easier when the information you knew was ordained by God to the king or the pope. Like, if you just knew that if they said it and it was ordained, life was just easier.
Yeah.
Like, you didn't have to go like, oh, well, did the Onion say
not
this?
wrong.
Is it fake news? Is it whatever? Like, you just knew it was real.
Like, that's it,
Well,
like, there was no questions.
Yeah, but who...
Cutting back in, because we already way past this. But Socrates didn't write anything. He was Plato who done.
Bam!
Nice.
Get out of here.
My guy.
Yeah, but at the same time though, like with books, how could you trust the writer or the publisher? Like it was just all about building a reputation and a credibility from being,
True.
In weird,
because even like the most well-known historians were known to, fabricate things.
There's no
like
such thing
Herodotus,
as whitewashing.
like scientists, they were alchemists who were, also doing scientific experiments and then also trying to create gold from lead or whatever it is. So, information was still like it wasn't like information was like concrete just because it was coming from a scientist or from a.
It was who could afford to put their information down.
Yeah, that was
Well, information generally came
even
from
if they
sources,
could afford
right?
it, or they had a patron that paid for them to do
patronage
it.
was a big
like Herodotus, right?
Well,
did he pay for all that? Did someone patron that? Like, but no matter what he wrote, right? Like the history and times, right? Like it doesn't matter. Like they're starting to find out things that he wrote is wrong. However, for like 1,000+ years, that was concrete history.
Yeah, right. Okay, you're saying you're the perception.
So
of
like
truth.
it was who could ever afford to put their information.
Yeah.
Like why is it that people did things? Well, like why is it that pharaohs were whatever? Well, they put it on the stelas to say this is what happened.
Yeah.
And so anybody that came later read it. Like obviously it's written down. It has to be real.
Yeah.
Right. And so today we just have the advantage of the cost of ink or the cost of font is way cheaper than it ever was before.
Yeah. It's democratized.
So like we're still getting the same amount of like junk.
Oh yeah.
Percentagely, right?
Yeah.
Just one like now you just have
trades
more
off. There's
junk to
trade-offs.
sift through.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. But.
And that's where blockchain comes in.
Man.
Oh,
You,
my.
you haven't told us yours.
All right. So,
Yeah.
Because we've spent quite a bit of time.
yeah,
on it.
so what historical
Question.
figure or event do I think would be influenced the most by AI if it had been available in their time, and how might their stories have changed? I think it would absolutely have been the Library of Alexandria. And I
that a
think
person?
no, it is an event, and it would have been before the burning of the Library of Alexandria. Because I
not
think
after
had AI had a chance to record the information that was inside of those those papers,
Oh.
Yeah.
not only would it have changed the story that we have of Egypt and like the Roman Empire and everything along those lines, everything we have today would be different because they, only had a single copy of some of those information, and it was nowhere else in the world.
It was cool.
And
They would even like
Alexandria was different than any other city because it was built by Alexander to bring knowledge to one place. So it literally was essentially AI before we had a way of keeping track of it.
It had zoos, it had like gardens, it had for botany. It wasn't just books. And one of my favorite facts about it is whenever like, a ship from a different country or whatever would come, they would literally invade the ship or, like search the ship for books, not for money. They would take them sometimes by
Information.
force. They would copy them, then they'd return it. And because that was the wealth of, Alexandria at the
So-
time. It was
Data
knowledge.
back then.
That's
too,
data.
Yeah, yeah.
So
Yeah.
data might not have been just information like words. Think about this. Today, the thing that we take, which is off this, is we take GPS, right? We use GPS every day. Back in the day, maps
Oh, yeah.
were the
Cartography,
value.
yeah.
Like having a map of a different place and an actual one that showed you the true landscapes, the true whatever, like that was real knowledge, and that was knowledge of resources, right? That was knowledge of where to get your salt, where to get your gold, where to get this animal, where to get whatever furs you needed, like fish,
Oh, and
coral.
history has also been defined
like-
by geography, literally.
And so, like, if all our maps
Rivers.
could have been resourced back then and been available, or all that information from that time, which to me would have been at that library, we don't know what was there. I assume maps also existed there too, in
yeah.
addition
Oh,
to
for
text,
sure, yeah.
because they know
There's accounts of books on robotics.
Yeah,
On
they had-
histories that date
they-
like
they
13,000
had-
years before Christ.
Yeah,
Like, there's so
but they
many
have
things.
like a papyrus they found or whatever, like of like literally it says like book's name, author, category, like literally like a content. Like you could go in and like actually look to see where something was. Like it was this before we had it digital. Like
Yeah.
it was the closest thing they could do before they could put it on something that was like digital.
Yeah.
And that's where I think like not only would it have changed like in a sense like their lives and their world, right? Like I think the changes from there would have exponentially changed our lives today.
Yeah.
And it would have made Isaac Newton, half his information had already been known.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Would have already been known before the fire.
Yeah. No,
Like-
Yeah.
I mean, yeah.
Like not s- like
Oh, yeah. No, yeah. It was.
I mean, it was, yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
Anyways.
That
Read
was
the
a lot of
question.
info.
Knew I was not going to use my question. I said after I read that question, I couldn't use the one I came
No,
up
I'm
with.
glad we went with.
What question?
The question we just asked.
Oh, okay.
All right, so question of the day is pretty much
After
done.
that short segment.
So you want to get into your robe and get the corncob pipe so you can do your book section? Segment in a second? Or is...
Sure.
All right, what we're going to do, we have 6 other questions. We're going to spin a wheel. Hannah's going to call it a random number, and that's what the wheel spun. 1 through 6.
Number 3.
Three.
Oh, I was thinking 3.
All right,
Okay.
so
wait,
number
oh.
3.
Oh, wait,
You were thinking two.
3.
Ah.
Number 3. All right, Ryan.
Oh,
What's the
God.
most embarrassing tech-related fail or accident you've seen or experienced? And I'm going to add one part because it's not in here. Or read about.
Okay, cool.
Okay. Yeah, I can think of one.
Tech fail.
We've all heard the. Yeah.
How did you just start?
Yeah.
All right,
Yeah.
forget Ryan.
Yeah, forget
We're moving
me.
over to Fernando.
No,
Let's go.
yeah. I mean, we've all kind of heard read about the scary stories about Zoom and team meetings.
Oh, nice.
So I had a colleague who, it was like a team meeting, a whole team meeting of the company, and it was a meeting with someone. I don't know if it was a team meeting, but it was a meeting.
You're the worst deposition ever.
Hey, let me intro this situation.
I'm building up the suspense. It's good storytelling. And then, so this was on Zoom, right?
Okay.
And she didn't realize that she hadn't turned off the meeting, and she was coming out of the shower, exposed. The way that our comedians went out onto the street to cry out Eureka, similarly to that. But she wasn't, she was oblivious, so, yeah.
You work with the mayor's office, right?
No, this wasn't...
Did anybody
this wasn't really...
say anything, or did you guys just kind of like, well...
Well, I wasn't present. I heard this from my other colleague and from her as well. And, she said that it was embarrassing and that I think they notified her or, I think they were trying to get a hold of her, but I think it was on mute or something. So I don't know how they ultimately got a hold of her or like how they notified her, but she. So, it was, and that's, you've heard stories and you've seen like the famous video of the guy who's like, talking,
the politician
in the news,
guy,
and then like the kids come in and there's all sorts of things. Like whenever Zoom came out, like that was like a scare. I think I sometimes had nightmares of like, gosh, I really hope that I'm on mute or I'm on, not
You
on
lived
video.
alone though.
Huh?
Dude, in 2020, you lived by yourself.
Yeah, but
How would you fear someone walking into your meetings? And
no,
you live alone?
not that, but like, gosh,
swatting.
what if
like
it's
you
not?
just in the middle of your
No,
meeting
but
and
like,
the SWAT team comes
what if
in?
this,
Like,
what if the camera's on when I don't want it to be on, or like, or like it's
Okay.
on mute and like,
All right.
I'm like,
Okay.
I don't know.
I thought you were worried about like your kid that you
Oh,
don't
no.
have in your house, never have one that we know about.
No.
Any of that stuff, like just randomly appearing in your house.
No.
Okay, that was
No.
that was the part that was like,
Oh, yeah, no. I should.
Randy lives a different
I should
life than we know
clarify.
about. That's
should
like,
clarify.
True life.
So
what
you want to
about-
go next, or
Unfortunately, can't
I mean-
fact check
I can't fact check that. She checked
That's
ChatGPT
chat-
and it
yeah,
says
ChatGPT.
not since don't have the information. So you want to go next, or you want me to go next?
I think I can go next. I can do an embarrassing one about me.
So no, what's the most? All right. So what's the most embarrassing tech-related fail or
Yeah.
accident you've seen, experienced, or read about?
I mean, one of mine personally, I had a tech fail on Zoom once, and so I was
Zoom
getting
seems
out
to
of
be a common
I was getting
denominator.
out of the shower too. No, I'm just kidding. No, so what happened was I just got my dog at the time, and I had my cat, and I got really like
Sounds very tech related.
during the Zoom call, I'm like, sitting there and, looking at the dog and the cat. And I'm like, I should mute myself so I can go pet the dog and the cat.
You should mute
Mute myself, yeah, right? Like you press the mute button, you get up, you quickly pet the dog and cat. So I thought I pressed the mute button.
You didn't?
No, I didn't. So I'm a good boy, good girl. My cat and dog, I'm over here like, yeah, you guys are the best.
That's a
Like,
good little boy.
I walk back and I see it's unmuted. And I think I just about dude, pale white.
Died.
Back to professional. So
Because I turned off the camera and everything. I had to jump back on and
About
turn
those
back.
KPIs.
Yeah, so I was paying attention the whole time. that was.
Imagine if they thought you were tired. Who's a good little boy?
Yeah, they're like, oh, thank you,
Like,
thank you.
what?
I don't know what
I'm
they're
doing
saying.
fine.
At least it
Oh,
wasn't, at least
have
it
y'all
wasn't your
seen-
girlfriend saying it.
Have y'all seen that video of the judge who who puts on a cat
He
filter?
can't get it off.
Oh man, yeah.
Check that video out. It's this guy on a
It's a judge or a lawyer.
Yeah,
or,
it's a
I think
lawyer
it's
on
judge.
no, it was the lawyer on
Oh,
the
yeah,
judge's
yeah.
call, and he's supposed to be presenting the case or the defendant's case.
Yeah.
And they're waiting, but he has his cat filter on. It's
I
the
can't turn it
funniest.
on. I'm not a
Like,
cat filter.
he's like, 'cause I don't know.
cat.
I'm not a cat.
I swear I'm not a cat.
Oh man, I'm sure there's hundreds of stories of Zoom.
Yeah, but that's my most embarrassing Zoom moment. First time being shared. Only the people who are on the call know.
Getting
So,
an exclusive take.
yeah, that's mine.
That's
All
a good
right.
one. That's a good one.
So you picked one that was like someone you knew.
Yeah.
And he picked one about himself.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go one about history.
Cool.
that we read about.
Let's do it.
I assume that one of the most embarrassing tech-related fails or accidents I've ever read about is twofold, because they're related. The Titanic, right? Because they went around the whole time bragging about being not sinkable and stuff.
Okay.
And OceanGate. They're related. I said they were related.
Those are good. Those are real
Right?
good. Very
Like, I
unique.
think both of those,
Different.
like, tech-related. Like, Logitech controller, OceanGate, carbon fiber, gone, unsinkable ship.
Yeah.
And I would think
They
that-
visit each other. Like one visits the other, man. Like that's a little bit.
Well, weren't they doing? They were doing tours, right? Or do they?
Yeah, they were. I think that the White Star Line probably was the most embarrassed that they ever could be with having the sinking of the Titanic. And I will think that that was equally shared by OceanGate.
The what?
OceanGate?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, you can go
Yeah.
down and check out the Titanic in a carbon fiber submarine.
Yeah. Oh, those were pretty.
I mean, bro, but if I got like $500,000 to just throw out, like, whatever I want to do with my life, I'm doing. Like,
I mean,
people
but, like,
died in Apollo missions and they were just getting paid military wages.
Yeah. It's kinda-
Like, let me strap you to a rocket, bro. Like, what
Yeah,
kind of rocket?
but
Is
they
it?
were-
It's got GPS.
Yeah.
No, it's literally the rockets we were shooting in World War II. We just put a capsule on it.
But they were doing it for science.
What do you think they were doing in OceanGate? Science. They were researching.
What were they researching?
You have to have people pay money to research. They got to go down there and get information and pictures and stuff.
Information and pictures and stuff. Stuff and things.
Just
All
things,
those things,
right?
yeah.
Like, and all those things and stuffs turn into information.
Oh.
And without people going and getting things and stuff like
that
archaeologists,
information gets processed and extrapolated.
now by AI. But before that, like, the rich people got to pay for us to have that cool shit. And, like, if they want to go down there, like, let them go down there, right? But, like, all I'm saying, it was embarrassing. And Titanic was probably very embarrassing. Not for the people on it. That was really sad. It was really embarrassing for, like, the White Star
company.
Line. Right? It was like, YOLO, whatever. Remember one ship, unsinkable. We don't need enough lifeboats. What? Right? And then, like, OceanGate's like, YOLO.
Ocean Gate.
Which doesn't mean you only live once. It means you ought to look out.
Yeah. Oh, that's good. Yeah. I mean, in my opinion,
You gotta look out.
You oughta.
you ought to look out.
You oughta look out.
Oh.
Like YOLO.
Okay.
Oughta. OUTTA. It's in the dictionary.
Right.
Right along.
I always thought LOL was
It's
lots
in the
of
dictionary
laugh.
alongside gullible.
Lots of love.
Lots of love. I mean, yeah, lots
Yeah,
of
yeah,
love.
yeah. That's what I didn't think that, but I heard people thought.
Yeah, I would be like, oh, LOL, like at the end, like.
It doesn't always work.
No. Yeah, sorry. I don't know why you made me think of that.
Yeah, how does that happen?
Because the acronym, like YOLO.
Y'all ever heard of
Oh.
ADD?
So, Ocean Gate, like, do we know how many trips they did prior to that whole thing? Like, did they do a lot, or was it like?
I'm not very well.
I'm honestly, I don't really know. It was just on the news. I
Yeah.
literally found out about them when it happened.
Yeah, no, I did too. I couldn't
So,
believe that was like
before that. I literally thought Robert Ballard was the only person that goes to the Titanic.
Mm,
Maybe James Cameron,
that's what I thought.
but he went there with Robert Ballard. So, like,
Oh, okay.
you know,
makes
like,
sense, yeah.
I don't know.
Cool.
They really should hire James Cameron. Hey Ryan,
Your shoes.
your shoes untied.
Are united. Oh, untied.
United. Thanks, Frank. My shoes are
How the hell
untied.
do you even know? What are you doing staring at his shoes underneath the table?
They're slip-ons, man. He knows they're slip-ons. This guy. All right, cool.
Wait, you're wearing slip on?
They had Vans.
Him and his slip on and Y ties, bro. Like, you also got the Velcro Nikes.
I got the zipper Nikes. Zipper with
All
the
right,
Velcro.
so like we have every week,
Oh.
Fernando brings us a book written by someone else.
Yes, well, I actually forgot to bring a book today, but I always carry one of my own in my backpack. So I'm pulling that one out today. It's an illustrated book that I illustrated and wrote, self-published, called Mr. Pendulum's Compendium, The Illustrated Multiverse, Volume 1, because I plan to make like 10 or 20 or as many as I possibly can. And, well, I use a pseudonym called Mr. Pendulum.
Doxed. Doxed. So we all know now.
Doxed.
Yeah, you got doxed. You don't know what
You
dox
doxed
is.
yourself.
Oh.
You let everyone know who you are on the internet, bro. Like, you can't do that.
Yeah, I prefer, I like.
He's a man who likes
I
to
don't
know
need
his
the-
audience.
It's more about the storytelling and the world building than anything to do with
I'm
my
bad for
identity.
interrupting.
No, it's all good. I
okay,
welcome
Cal.
feedback.
Welcome feedback.
Yeah, so as you can see, there's a lot of different characters. It's a mix of fact and my own fiction, my own characters, and like historical figures. It touches on science, philosophy, psychology, mythology, and neuroscience, like just all sorts of things that interest me. Yeah, so I thought I could pull it out, and you suggested, I think, Zero Universe,
Yeah.
which is the first poem, although it is a bit long.
You can choose something else. Like, I just know that
You
one of
can
my
read that
friends
one?
actually read this
Yeah,
when
I
he
guess
was
I can
working
read-
on his company, and he was inspired by this actual one.
Yeah, I can read it. I can read
Yeah.
the poem, I guess. It's a little long, but yeah. So it's called The Zero Universe. In the beginning there was zero, and zero was all there was. Zero never did much, for nothing never does. But then one fateful moment, zero had a thought. Zero started thinking of all that it was not. Then zero started visualizing all that it could be. And soon it came to realize it could be anything. Zero could potentially be 2 plus 8 plus 3, as long as it was sure to add negative 13. It could be 30 divided by 5, then multiplied by 9, if it also negatively added 12 times 4.5. It could even be I times pi, then e to the power of that. As long as 1 was added to, 0 was still intact. But these kinds of equations needed some chronology. Calculations require time, so time came into being. Now 0 could express itself with separate entities, a daunting infinite amount of possibilities. But then an unexpected thing soon began to occur. These new and separate entities started to observe. First they became aware of themselves, then they looked out far, and then they all began to notice other equation parts. 9 saw 30 divided by 5. 3 noticed 4.5. E discovered 8 plus 3. 1 saw I times pi. They observed each other curiously and tried to do the math. What did these random numbers mean? They craved to understand. Only 0 knows the answer to the equation in its head. It always has and always will be 0 in the end. Yeah.
That is
Oh,
inspirational.
that's the illustration.
I see why he drew inspiration from that.
Yeah, and I guess it kind of this.
We can also put an image on the screen too if needed.
Sure, yeah.
Can you provide us with a PNG or
Picture,
SVG
picture.
or whatever?
Can you provide me with your PNG and SVG?
Our people will get with
Sure,
your people.
PNG, SVG, vector file. Yeah, it kind of comes from the idea, and I used to think about it like when I was smaller. Like, well, if there's like in thermodynamics, if energy cannot be created or destroyed, then either something has always existed or it's it all reverts to nothing. It's just like a thought experiment of the creation of the universe, but in like kind of symbolic, playful, mathematical way, I guess.
You got the next one.
The next one is about
good.
Galileo.
Which one do you want to read?
Oh,
Like you had, I'm sure.
no,
you
I
had-
mean, yeah, that's one of my favorites.
it's a good one. But do you have one other one in mind that you want to share?
Sure.
Because these are like kind of cool.
Yeah, I mean, I can. Let's see.
Tal, do you have one you want to share?
No, I was just.
I can do a.
I was
a very
just
quick one.
thinking that Fernando could draw our team as one of his people,
In one?
Yeah.
Like a
and we
Metazord?
could have like a contest, and as long as we got like X number of comets, you would draw a person.
An
of
X
each
number
one.
of comments.
Yeah, like one.
Oh yeah. Well,
We got a comet,
gosh, I'm gonna do like all that hard work. It should be a little bit more than one.
2 comets. That's twice as many.
Cal's gonna be there writing 2 comments.
There we go.
Yeah. Well, yeah, we could do that. But then what I would draw like the commenter or you guys or what do you mean?
I want
That
to.
you would draw our team.
Oh yeah.
I was thinking like in
Yeah.
like a almost like a Power Ranger, like when they get together and create that giant like robot.
Oh yeah.
Voltron?
Yeah.
Oh,
Or,
like-
you know
Or
no,
the Zoid.
Like-
Zoid, Metazord.
I don't know. It's taken from Voltron.
Yeah, but you know what I'm talking
Oh
about.
yeah. Like I'm the arm.
Yeah,
Cal's
like
the other
I'll
arm.
be the.
I
I'll
want-
be
You're like the leg.
Yeah, like the leg. Third.
Well, speaking of body parts,
I'm the
I
blue
found
ring.
another one that
Beauty.
it's called Brain in a Vat, which comes from like philosophy, this idea that you can kind of like, how's it possible to prove that you really exist, type of thing. Anyway, what if you were a brain in a vat? Can you even imagine that? You'd mistakenly feel that your dream world was real, while so gray and alone there you sat. You might think that you had legs and arms, and you might think that you could run far. But it'd be an illusion just meant to confuse you, because you'd still be stuck in your jar. And although you would not have a heart, as a brain you might be pretty smart. Except you'd never find that your world was a lie. Now I'm starting to sound like Descartes. Yes, if you were a brain in a vat, you would be very slimy and fat. You'd sit still every day, and right there you would stay. Aren't you glad you're no brain in a vat? ...
But I
I
am.
like that.
What if you are?
You could be.
I mean,
And that was
Really?
like the whole phrase "cogito ergo sum" by Descartes. Like, I think therefore I am. That was kind of his proof. Well, if I can be sure of one thing, it's that I'm thinking, therefore I exist. So that's kind of weird.
That's what that means?
Yeah. No. Well, I don't know. I never assumed.
Sorry.
sorry. That was so genuine, man. I appreciate it. That was nice. It's unique, different. All right.
Appreciate it.
I like your book, man.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it.
It's one of the greats.
It's
So when's the card game coming out?
It's available on Amazon and other
Board game, card
online
game,
retailers.
and the TV
What's
series.
it?
When's
Well,
the card game coming out?
actually, did I tell you I'm working on? Because I am working on a card game.
Never.
Really?
Never once
Oh,
told us to be.
Yeah, I have told you. I'm working on that. I'm working on several things.
All right.
I like your book, man.
Appreciate
I'm
it.
glad you didn't bring a book today, and you just happen to have this one.
Well, I always have it. in
I
my
will say one
backpack.
thing, if you notice, people, he doesn't research this one. Because as you will see, there's not a single tab.
Well, I mean,
Every other book he has is littered with tabs.
well, I did have an early prototype book that I had tabs where I had to.
I can't even
like,
imagine what that looked like, honestly. Like, that was probably, like, thick with tabs.
What?
That's what she said.
Yeah. Yeah,
You can say it.
I did definitely do a lot of iterations and changes, edits, and layers of interaction. And I've been musicalizing and narrating each poem. So yeah, it's been a lot of things, as Cal said.
Things
Things
and
stuff
pictures
yeah.
and
that
Oh,
turn
yeah,
into
stuff.
ideas.
some pictures and some
All right.
things. Yeah.
So,
Cool.
we have time for one more question?
Nope.
Or what do we got? Wrapping up?
Can you do it in a minute?
No, we cannot. That's what she said.
Well, save it for the next time.
Well, that was a better one at least. Hit the mark.
On that note, we will wrap up to our outro, guys.
All right, I'm gonna take it.
All right. So, after all that, our introduction to AI and everything it would change, and your book,
Titanic.
and
Titanic was good. I like that.
embarrassing tech things. So that's a wrap for the episode of Brain Soup. We hope you enjoyed it. If you did, don't forget to hit subscribe. If you'd like to stay updated with all things tech, continue the conversation, follow on our social medias. Could be there or there. And if you have any burning tech questions or topics you'd like us to cover in a future episode, comment below. Thanks for joining us. Until next time on Brain Soup.
Bye.
Comments for today? Something about your comments?
What's our? Oh, yeah. So,
never mind.
no, I mean, if y'all just kind of comment, I'm pretty sure Fernando's really just gonna draw them at some point, anyways. But like,
But comment.
10 comments. It's fair, right? 10 comments,
I think it's fair.
right?
Very fair.
So if we can get 10 comments,
That's a
even
lot
if it's
of
from our
work.
parents, whoever, just please. I really want a picture drawn of me. So
Even if it's a hater comment, like
anything,
we'll
we
love it.
literally
We'll probably
do
shout
read,
you out.
embrace it.
We read your comment and talk
And
about
if
it.
you want to
so.
fact check us, feel free. We
Please.
get stuff.
You're not
wrong.
fact checking us.
Check
You're
me.
fact checking Hannah. So.
Yeah, check me.
Because she fact checks us. So. You're
Right.
like really bad.
Cool. Thanks, guys.
All right. So,
Oh, sorry. Yeah.
bye.
You do that.
Bye.
Bye.